Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, depending upon where you're joining us from. It is your girl, Marcie Thomas, founder of Brown Girl Collective, who just turned 14 last week. Woo! So I'm still in celebration mode, just celebrating all of the years of being able to talk about bold, brilliant, and beautiful Black women, and those of you who are our guests fall into that same category. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, tonight I am really excited because we're going to have a conversation about loving our people, about Black culture, why it's important, ways that we can help to support it, and things like that. So come on in the room. If you don't mind, you can drop in the comments to let us know whether or not this is your first time here, where you're joining us from, any good news that we can share with one another as sisters and brothers, because sometimes we have some brothers in the space as well. And I am coming to you from ATL, which is the center of Black culture for a lot of people. So I'm really excited to be able to have this cultural conversation. Now, tonight we have a special guest who's going to talk to us about her wonderful book of poetry and prose and beautiful photos called I Love My People. And our guest is Kimberly Singleton. Now, she is a filmmaker, writer, and poet who earned a BS from Howard HU. I can see her lips going, in the background from HU, and an MBA from NYU, Stern School of Business, forging a 20-year career in media. Singleton's love for the arts led her to study at Frederick Douglass Creative Arts Center, Gotham Writers Workshop, and African Voices Writers Workshop. Singleton is the executive producer and host of the online program Consider It Black Lit, winner of the Public Media Award of Excellence in 2018 and 2019. I believe she won another award recently, but I'll let her talk to us about that. She is also an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and a former international president of the Howard University Alumni Association. She currently lives in NYC. And without any further delay, let's welcome to the room the authoress, Kim Singleton. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to do that again. She's from HU.
Yeah,
I had to give you a chance to do that live. So welcome. I'm really excited to talk to you because you are a queen of the culture, and your new book really, really dives into that as well. So congratulations, because
Thank
it
you
was
so much.
Yesterday.
Yes. Yesterday was the official launch of I Love My People.
Right. So how does it feel?
It feels great. I feel like I'm at the beginning of a roller coaster. We had a launch event in New York City last night. It was full. People received the book very well. People went back and bought 2 and 3 books, and they just showed me so much love. I was just overwhelmed. So, I'm ready for this ride.
Yes, yes. So now, of course, you have many different talents, of course, being a filmmaker, a writer, and a poet, and of course, hosting your own show. So what was it, first of all, that drew you to want to write I Love My People? And just give us a little snippet of what it's about.
Okay. I always wrote poetry on the side. People say I'm left brain, right brain, because I have an undergraduate degree in engineering.
Oh, wow.
And I was always good in math. And my professional job was as a finance executive. I Love My People is part of the poetry that I used to do on the side. I didn't think about actually starting a book about it. But one thing led to another, and that happened. And we can get into that later. But in terms of what led me to write I Love My People itself, it first originally started off as a 12-stanza poem that I wrote. And I tell people this story. I was sitting in the park in New York City, and it was a bunch of young Black men, teenagers actually, joking on each other and cracking jokes. And they had me sitting there laughing. And they can be kind of loud. Mm-hmm. And a white couple came by, and you could see that they were nervous and were apprehensive about passing these young men. And I was looking at the whole interaction. I was like, they don't really understand us. There's so much depth to who we are as a people. And I just start writing everything I loved about us. Mm-hmm. The first line is creative name, saggy pants, soul train lines, that wobble dance, I love my people. You know what I'm saying? And as I looked at them, it made me realize, when they were cracking jokes with each other, that a lot of things that we do comes from a place of survival.
Right.
Like we called it the dozens. We cracked on each other. We did that to lighten our situation when we were oppressed. We made our own humor. And I tell people the story about when even like in the rap industry, I'm older of a different generation. I listen to different kind of music, and to be honest, I don't understand a lot of this rap, but I
Same.
because when you think about it and you take away the piece that you don't understand and you take a step back, it's a group of our people who have taken their situation from being impoverished, created an art form, and created wealth with it. And it's like, you can throw us anything.
Right.
And we can turn it around and emerge even better. So when you think about that, it's just, you know what? I just love my people. No matter what you give us, you can give us the intestines of a pig
Come
and
on.
turn it into a delicacy. You know what I'm
Come
saying?
on.
So it's just, I love my people. I just do. So that's what inspired me to write that. And I just wrote down things that I loved about us.
Right. Yes, I love us. That is so important. And just as you were going through that, it made me think of even the reason of starting Brown Girl Collective, 14 years ago. It was out of a love for us. I love Black men, so let's be clear. I do love Black men, but it's just something about Black women and Black womanhood. As I said in the beginning, we are bold, we are brilliant, we are beautiful. And I wanted to come up with ways to just really celebrate that. And, over the years it's evolved, but it's so important for us to see that and to showcase that and just talk about those things that are oftentimes ignored in different spaces. So I can appreciate and understand, what would lead you to writing a book in that same vein, just to be a celebration. And that's exactly what this is, both the words and, just like there are pictures on the cover, there are pictures throughout the book, it's a whole vibe, as you can see. I'm not going to put it too close because y'all have to buy it to read it, but just so you can kind of see, it's very beautifully put together. And so of course you love Black people, you love your people. And in it, though, you had to have done some research, of course, because you talk about things that are happening in the here and now, but then you also drop a lot of science, so to speak, or drop a lot of facts. So, of course, as a poet, you had that part together because you've been writing. But what was it like to actually research and kind of decide what pieces of Black history that you wanted to tell versus those that maybe you just couldn't include because you had limited space?
Well, I think I tried to put in areas that I was interested in, and
Right.
I realized that when it comes to history, some things about us aren't ready available. In the public school system. They don't teach us about a lot of the trailblazers who were people of color. So when I was talking to my editor, we would say something like, okay, what about Black inventors? And I knew of some, but that's not something that, everybody, in school, they'll teach you about Thomas Edison, but it's like Solomon Harper, Sarah Boone, and Elijah McCoy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the information is there, so you have to do the research. But I wanted to put things in there to pique people's interest to research. So when I dropped a name, and they would be like, "Okay, let me go and look up, more information about that person." And that's the other piece of the book. I want to highlight, even though I want to highlight people that but I also want to give you a little history about people that you don't know. Because it's important. I think a lot of our stories, now that they're being told, a lot of the stories died with us in history, so it's up to us, especially as creators, as media people like you, to kind of bring that back to the forefront.
Mm-hmm. It is so important. I could appreciate that because as I was reading, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know this person. I know that person. I haven't heard that name in a while, or if at all. So that's pretty much what it is. But for those who haven't had a chance to read it yet, which probably a lot of people probably haven't since it's brand spanking new, what kinds of things do you talk about as you are talking about culture?
Um, Everything. I talk about our hair.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line in there where I'm saying it's so versatile. For years, the mainstream has, tried to uh, make us think that our natural hair texture is not good enough with the straightening products and the chemicals. I like the fact that the Crown Act
Yes.
is out there.
Yes.
And that way we can just wear our natural hair,
Mm-hmm.
and it's neat and it's beautiful. I talk about the different types of music. Like I said, I love old school R&B. Not that the other isn't good, but you give me some Aretha Franklin, some Ray Charles, some old Temptations. I'm like, okay, I'm in heaven. But all of that is part of our culture. So, I talk about that too. I talk about us in the media, us in newspapers. In my research, when I wanted to do something about, okay, us in media, us in newspapers, that's when I learned about Russ Roman Cornish, who started a paper, Freedom's Journal, in 1827.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, nobody tells us about this. And if you do like research, it's very, you may find an article or two that shows that they actually existed, but I would love to know their backstory in terms of what challenges they had to go through to start that newspaper and to put their voice out there as
Mm-hmm.
people of color in this country back in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
So, I talk about that, just to give people a little taste to want to go research. Of course, sports.
Right.
We talk about sports, but I thought it was important to talk about the brothers who ran track
Right.
in the Olympics, and they, you know, their iconic picture where they throw their fists in the air to
Mm-hmm.
protest, to bring awareness to Black power around the world. And, they suffered the consequences for it. So it's not just about sports, it's about what it represents. And, Colin Kaepernick, he took a knee for police brutality. You know what I'm saying? It's like, those are the things that, I talk about. And then you can't talk about our people without talking about what we've been through to
Right.
bring justice to our people.
Yes.
Um, so I talk about that. And I also I also mentioned, like you said, there's so many out there. You can't put everything in a poem. The
Right.
poem is already long enough. But
Right.
I ended by saying there's so many others, too many to name, from the corners of obscurity to the highest of fame. It's the people we know about and we can research are out there. But there's probably of millions or more of us who have amazing stories that just didn't make it through time.
Mm-hmm.
Even their towns got burned down
Right.
or they were killed. I remember talking to a gentleman at church, and he told me how his father was killed because he tried to protect his land for his family, and they
Mm.
killed him. And this is just a side story. So
Right.
there's so many things out there. So, you know, those are the things I talk about.
I think it does, the book does a really good job of kind of giving you an overview of sorts. And, the vast majority of it does come from a place of joy. If you were looking at that video at the beginning, I talk
Mm-hmm.
about joy, living with joy, and it really does come from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know there are so many things that can talk about the negativity of our
Mm-hmm.
stories or the traumas of our stories, but you focus on the joy, because there is a mention of the exonerated five. I love how
Mm-hmm.
you do that. And you're in New York, so
Mm-hmm.
you probably
Mm-hmm.
know a lot more about it than some of us
Mm-hmm.
others do, because you being there and actually seeing things play
Yeah.
out.
And Yusef Salon just won. He's one of the exonerated
Yes.
five who just city council. I was so excited about that. And see,
Yes.
that's a perfect example of who we are. You see what
Mhm.
they threw at him, and now he's a city council person. And if you've never heard him speak, or if you've never seen his passion, it's you're missing something, and I think he's going to do an excellent job because he comes from the community and he's been through so many things, and he's not bitter. You know, he comes
Right.
from a place where he actually wants to help people, and he's a perfect example of why I love my people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny because just I say that all the time. I love my people, and sometimes it's said tongue in cheek.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I mean, it is true. It's a reason why I love the work that I do, because it allows me to meet people like you, Kim, and just really be able to expand my horizons and just talk to folks who are doing great things and who are really committed to telling these stories and putting information out there. So, as you and I talked about before, the book is like how many pages? There
Like
are
96 pages, I think.
96
Yeah.
pages, including like all the photo credits and things like that.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm,
of course, we are not going to talk through the whole book because the whole point is for people to read it.
mm-hmm,
But I
mm-hmm,
really do encourage everyone because, as I mentioned and have shown, there's beautiful photos.
mm-hmm.
There are illustrations that go along with the photos. You can learn a lot about different people and be inspired. That's Matthew Henson. I think my finger has gone there a couple times. So I just realized my nail polish kind of matches the book. Just realized that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so I mean, there's just a lot to learn. Oh, there's you.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's you. So I think that just take a look, everyone. Please read. But I want to continue the conversation with Kim because number one, it's a wonderful book, and she talks about history. And we know that we're in a point in time where people are doing all that they can to try to not talk about our history, to try to diminish our contributions. And so as a poet, as a writer, as, a published author, how important is it for us to continue to be supportive of those who are in this space of creating art?
Oh, it's very important. We have to be diligent about supporting people who put our content out there and our history out there. Because, like you said, we're in a time where it's almost like people are trying to erase us. But you know what? You can't put us back in the box. You cannot. And you can't put us back in the box just so you can feel better about what you've done to us. Learn from the history. I think it's important that as a creator, that we put information out there about who we are as a people, good, bad, or indifferent, and support each other.
Yes.
In terms of when people put great stuff out there that tells our story, that we support each other, that we show unity. So, it's very important that we do that because they're unified and working against us. We have to be unified in staying strong and keeping our voice out there.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, in some of the other work that you do, you also are like interviewing and talking to people about their not just literary, I should say, about films and about plays and things of that nature. And I told you as we first came on that this is my summer of Black culture. Here in Atlanta, as in other parts of the country, there's a lot that I can partake in, whether it's going to the museums or I've already seen a couple of plays this summer with more to come. Film, concerts, all of those sorts of things, and that to remember those things are important and need to be supported as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, my show is called Consider It Blacklit.
Mm-hmm.
And it highlights African Americans up front and behind the scene in film, on stage, and on television. And I started it because I'm a old film buff. I like the black and whites, but there's a lot of good Black films out there that people weren't aware of, which is how I started it.
Okay.
Like this movie called No Way Out that stars Sidney Poitier. It was done in 1956, I believe.
Okay.
But he played this doctor in this town where the races were divided. And the white people decided that they were going to go and attack the Black neighborhood. But the Black neighborhood got wind of it and ended up beating up all the white people. And I was like, in 1956, they left. Wait a minute. they let this be out there,
Wow.
So I invited other film enthusiasts to come on and talk about it. I love the classics. I love Claudine, Nothing But a Man with Ivan Dixon and Abby
Mhm.
Lincoln. And then, I like to support independent filmmakers who are really doing content. Like my show is not really a review show. It's really more of, I like to talk about projects that I like.
Got
And
it.
I like to expose them to an audience who may not ever pay attention to it. I also do mainstream, entertainment also, like the big budget films that may have African Americans in it that just may not necessarily get the same promotion as their white counterparts. So, I like to talk about that. One particular series that kind of got me started in this doing the podcast it's a series called Hell on Wheels, and
Mm.
Common was in it. I think it was an
Okay.
AMC show,
Okay.
and his performance was just so amazing. He played this a former enslaved person who his father was a slave master, his mother was enslaved, but he went to this gold mining town where there wasn't slavery, and he was actually the sheriff, and he actually fought every day for the white people in the town to consider him as a man. And there was just so
Mhm.
many layers to this character. And I used to say, you haven't seen Common in Hell on Wheels? Like what? So that's kind of what jump started me into doing my show.
I love that, because it's true. There are a lot of different things that come out, or whether it's documentaries, because I saw like you worked with or talked to Tracy Ellis Ross about Hair Tales and, some other things like that. But oftentimes we really don't hear about the stuff that's going on unless it's somebody, that person goes on and they promote it themselves, and maybe they've got hundreds or thousands or millions of followers, and we find out that way. But the mainstream, the people who are producing the projects oftentimes don't even promote them, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's like, if you don't put the money into it, why aren't you promoting it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And one of the things that Black Panther did, of course, that allowed people to see that, okay, not just here domestically, but internationally, people will follow a good story.
Exactly. They will follow a good story, and that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Right. And not to put us in a pigeonhole just because of that. But, something that's been happening in the news lately, of course, we know what's happening with book bans and all those sorts of things. But we're also seeing that a lot of our shows are getting canceled.
Exactly. This is how I see it, that they, like you said, they don't put the money and promotion into it like they do, some of the other shows. Some of the stories are just amazing. And having worked in corporate Americas, because I worked for a media company and I worked, as an executive, what I do know is they put money behind what they want to. I've sat in the rooms where they have wasted money on things that were horrible ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a good story and you can make it work. You really can make it work if your heart is there and that's something that you feel strongly about. So it's unfortunate that, and I kind of like the fact that we are in this age where people can promote their own things on social media and they don't have to wait for someone else to give them a green light. But still, to take things to a certain level, sometimes you do need those resources. So, get back to what we had talked about originally. That's why it's so important that we support each other. So important that we support Brown Girl Collective and consider it Blacklit so we can continue to do the work that we do.
Yes, and that everyone, you can see that the Facebook channel is there for Consider It Blacklit, as well as Kim's website that will link to her show and some of the things that she's doing in those spaces as well. But as you were just talking, yesterday when I was a couple days ago when I was getting this protective hairstyle, we were watching reruns of Insecure, and just this whole standpoint of Issa Rae, and just being her own person, starting with Awkward Black Girl and then growing and growing, and now she's getting all of these wonderful deals and things like that. Or Quinta Brunson, who started out making videos online, and now is, winning awards, some major awards, and showing up as a spokesperson and all these things. It's wild. But as a creative, and of course I've created my own platform, you've created your own platform. How important do you think that is for those who have an idea versus, waiting for someone to give them the go ahead?
I think it's very important. It's like I had mentioned before, because we have a platform to put things out there. We don't have to wait for somebody to give us permission to do it. We don't have to wait for someone to really dictate how we do things. You gave Issa and Quinta as an example. They put their stuff out there. They built their own audience. And what happened was the money followed.
Right.
So I just think it's important that you just put your stuff out there, come up with a strategy, don't be reckless with it, but come up with a strategy. And, as we support each other and build an audience, the money will follow.
Mm-hmm. It definitely will. And, the support is all about the whole, I love my people. If you love your people, you support them.
Yes.
Vote with your dollars, vote with your, with your streams, vote by watching. And I mean, the reality of it is we're not going to love everything.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to love everything. Like I say on my show, I promote the things that I love. Some have approached me with projects that I didn't think were appropriate for my show. I don't begrudge them their success, but, I have a show where, I want your children to be comfortable watching it. So, sometimes every platform is not for everybody, and it's important that you understand who your audience is. So if you do want to do something that's a little off color, understand that you can't come to Consider Blacklit or Brown Girl Collective, but you may have an audience for it. I don't begrudge anybody's success. So, yeah.
Now you said a word right there, because I mean, it is true that you have to be, stand up for what you believe and what you feel and how you want to present yourself, because this is a part of building that legacy. Because when you're long gone, those videos, I mean, unless YouTube or whoever shuts down, when we're long gone, these videos and things are going to live. And that's just something I know. Sometimes that's, how can I put it? And this isn't even a thing of what some people say being respectable or respectability politics. This isn't that, because everybody has their own lane, and they get in that lane and they operate in that lane. But understanding that as a creative, whatever you put in the world, that's your legacy. It's going to live beyond you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one thing about this book is that it's your legacy. You're sharing the legacy of others, before, and even some people that are still here doing great things. And I just think that is so important. Now, in the book, is it written for a particular audience or just anyone? Because it seems like anybody could read it.
It's for anyone. Like I said, I want people who are not African American to know who we are. I want them to look at the book, just like you said, oh, this is a name I'm familiar with. This one I may not be. I want them to do the research too and understand, what stock we come from. It's children. I really want young people to look at this book, want to learn it, be one of the poems that you learn. I want people to have pride when they recite it. And I want it to be a book that you gift to people, so yeah.
Yeah, as I was telling you earlier, I'm going to end up giving one to my mom. She's normally watching, so you'll get one, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Because I know that she will love it, because there's a lot in it, and it is a way to learn or be introduced to a lot of different people. So I do have a question, though, because it is published, through a more of a traditional publishing house. Was that a conscientious choice to do that versus perhaps doing it independently, or what were your thoughts around the publishing process?
It was interesting because I write poetry on the side, and I would perform poetry over the years. That, I was a corporate executive, so that's not something that I did for a living or even thought to do it professionally. my editor used to go to church with me.
Oh, okay.
And we reconnected, and she had recently got this job at a publishing house. And as we were catching up, and she had seen me perform before, one thing led to another, and she was like, I want to publish your book. And I'm like, okay. I didn't even think that much of it.
Right.
But she is so serious and so on it. She followed up with everything that had to be done. And Kim, I need this. Kim, I need that. And one thing led to another, and that's how it happened. So, it wasn't a conscious effort to publish independently or, from a major publishing house. It's just something, God set me on a path and put people in my life. And that's what happened, because I emerged out of, some challenges I had the years before. So for this to happen, it was like, listen, that's nothing but God right there.
Right.
He takes care of me even when I don't take care of myself.
I know that's right. And one thing I love about a book, and I'm about to say this, and as I'm saying it, I'm talking to myself as well. One thing, once you have written a book and you have that, out in the world, it can go places that you can't go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of a book, because it can end up in libraries or, just all different types of places that you might never go. And it can, give the world a little piece of you and a piece of your heart without you ever having to step into that space. So that is the power of having, written a book. And I'm really excited for you. And prayerful, this won't be the last one. Oops, I knew that was going to happen. I can't really see it anyway, but I could feel it slipping. My earring was slipping. But yes, I'm looking forward to, seeing more. So because you are a filmmaker, that brings up another question. Are you ever think of perhaps producing some of your own films, fictional films or nonfiction, just telling stories, or are you more so in the poetry realm in terms of your writing?
Oh, I'm definitely there's going to be a film adaptation of the book.
Oh, perfect.
And I've done, films in the past. But, I believe in all aspects of the media and getting your word out that somebody may not necessarily want to get the book, but you should.
Yes.
But they may be more of a on-screen visual person. So yeah, when it comes to creating content, I don't limit myself in terms of the medium that I use. So I would definitely be doing other things. Yeah.
All right. Well, I know you have a lot going on since this is Pub Week for you.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any events or anything coming up that people can maybe come out and hear you read live, or just get a chance to meet you and purchase 5 copies of the book and get them signed? See, I'm speaking that out for you.
Yes. Well, if they go to my website, I do have a schedule on there. Some of the big things I have coming up. I'm doing another book signing July 22nd in Brooklyn at this pop-up store called My BK Life. And it is owned by a Black-owned couple. And they sell apparel out there, but they also support authors. So I'm going to go out there and sell the books. I will be at the National Urban League Conference. I'm being sponsored by Toyota. So I believe I'll be doing reading there, and there'll be books available there. I'll also be at the NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists, in Birmingham, Alabama, and that's going to be in August. So people will be able to see me read there. I'm coming to Atlanta, September 16th. I will be at 44th and 3rd Booksellers. So people in Atlanta can come out, hear me read, and get their book signed. And, I have other things planned, but I definitely keep an up-to-date schedule on my website.
Right, and everyone, please check that out. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Atlanta. That'll be 10 days before my birthday, so I'll definitely get my book signed by you, and just to share in what you're doing and to continue to support, and then maybe invite some of my sorors. I mentioned you were AKA. I am SG Row. We can come
right. You have to bring them out there, because I know when I read the part about the Divine Nine, everybody does that little call. So you have to have SG Row.
Yes. You have to come out and give you a little bit of call. So yes. Oh, well, when you're saying that, a couple of weeks ago, I went to an event, and they were doing calling out all the ones of the D9 and certain ones weren't there. They was just kind of like, oops. It was just funny because it's like, oh, well, I guess they're not here. We definitely will show up and show out here in Atlanta. Now, I know I did not ask you this before, but if there is like just a piece of the poem, because of course not the whole thing, but if there's just a little snippet that you'd love to leave us with, just to give us a taste of what the book involves, and so that way we can leave everybody with something good to whet their appetite for more of I Love My People.
Well, I love the beginning lines. Creative names, saggy pants, soul train lines, that wobble dance, fish fries, collard greens, urban slang, dudes named Pookie, that dozens game. I love my people.
Yes, that is great. That is a wonderful way to end it. And we love you. You are our people. We are your people. We love each other. And everyone, I do thank you for showing up and showing out. And we got folks here from New York, from Ohio, from South Carolina. So we are representing different parts of the country and, you know, all of the things that we love about who we are. And Kim, I just want to thank you so much for your time this evening. I know you're a busy woman with a lot going on, especially this week, as you know, your book is just coming out. And once again, I encourage everybody to go out and grab a copy of I Love My People. So, Kim, I want you to hold on for one moment, and I'm going to let everybody else go. So thank you so much. Please, please, please go out and get multiple copies. As she said, it's a book. It's something that you can read. You can buy it for your children. You can read it to your children. I can envision this being one day like that. What's that? Hey, Black Child. Is that the name of it?
Yep.
Yes, where people have learned it and committed it to memory, and they are reciting it and just talking about their love of Black people. So everyone, you have a great evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on when you're catching this live. And we look forward to seeing you again real soon. You take good care. And Kim, you hang on for me for a second.
Okay.
Have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.